words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Isaiah. Now, Isaiah is written by a group called Isaiah because it's written over a long period of time, so it's not by one person. And in fact, there are 3 separate parts to Isaiah. And if you recall, before I was talking to you about Isaiah, the first part, the first 39 chapters. This is 500-600 years before Jesus. Now, the place we call Iraq had sent armies and defeated the Israelites. And why they've been exiled. Trust God, and this is what the nation. First lesson today, and let's walk through this together. Now this is the prophet speaking. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Have you not been told from the very beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? Now remember, these are people who feel powerless. They have been in exile for 70 years. And they have been subservient. They've not had any experience of participating in government. They've been there in exile. And the prophet is reminding them of who God is. And he says, God is the one who sits above the circle of the earth. Seen the Hubble space, the pictures, and you follow the James Webb telescope. And John Wheeler always said that no matter how far you look, because galaxy, right? It was back in the 30s where just down the street, telescopes began to see that there was another galaxy. And now we know there are billions of galaxies with billions of stars with, I don't even know, trillions of planets. That is what the prophet is referring to here. Outside that circle is God. And the inhabitants, he says, are like grasshoppers. Now, when the prophet talks about stretching out the heavens like a curtain that spreads them like a tent to live in, he's talking about the universe. He's talking about the universe that he knew, and these people were astrologers. They about stars than we thought they would. And he says that this God is the one who brings princes to naught, makes the rulers of the earth as nothing. So, you've seen the Hubble, you've seen the James Webb, you've seen the pictures, you've seen the politicians and the rulers who want to tell you they can solve it all. And it doesn't matter red, blue, pink, or green. They're going to tell you they can do it. If you will just vote for them. Now, it's not because we shouldn't be part of what we experience as a very, very good government. But let's remember who's in charge of it all. And that's what the prophet is reminding us. He is speaking specifically to people who have been in exile. And he's saying, these princes, these powers, they will go away. Remember that it's the Creator who brings these princes to naught. He makes the rulers of the earth as nothing. Scarcely is there planted, scarcely sown, scarcely is there stem even taken root in the earth, when he blows upon them, and they wither. The tempest carries them off like stubble. So, similar to what we heard Job saying in his conversation with the Creator, God says, to whom will you compare with me? Who is my equal? Those other gods out there? We think of those other gods carved and maybe carved in wood or stone, but you know who our gods are today that we struggle with. The god of consumption, the god of capitalism, the god of war. Every one of these powers says, do what we do, what we tell you to do, be with us, and you'll be happy. You'll have life. And remember, when war came to the United States, remember what our prince said? You know how you can help the country survive? Go out and buy. Go out and buy. Follow the god of consumption. Not a bad thing, but let's remember, it's not the highest. It is not the one in charge. It's not the one who created. And so he says, who can you compare with me? Who is my equal? None of those gods who are vying for our attention today. He says, lift up your eyes on high and see. Who created these? He who brings out their host and numbers them. All of those stars. The host is the stars out there, the galaxies. Who brought them out? Calling them all by name. Because this God is great in strength, mighty in power, and not one is missing. If you have ever opened your mind to examine the infinite detail in our creation that allows us to be here, allows our planet to exist without being burned up by the sun, allows the kind of magnetic sphere that surrounds us. Everything is so perfectly calibrated for us to even be here. And as we explore the universe, and we explore the earth, and we dig into the human body and find more, we are overwhelmed with the possibilities. Now, let's not pretend that it was just a magic, random occurrence. The only reason that we have that kind of statement is because we don't know. So therefore, it has to be random. And are we lucky? But as we discovering what indigenous people have known before the Enlightenment. Before we decided they aren't really knowledgeable. They don't really have an awareness of the world. And in some cases, so we can just eliminate it. But what we're discovering is not only is quantum physics carrying us into places where we are co-creating with God, that what we see comes to be. Also, we're discovering, when we listen, that the indigenous people have a wealth of wisdom that we can welcome in, that helps us to see the great one behind all of this. And so, the prophet goes on to say, why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, and say, well, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by God? I don't have to worry about that. God doesn't care about me. God doesn't even see me. And what we know is that's not true. Remember, if you have any real interest in quantum science and this whole notion of entanglement, any time that one part of the universe is touching, physically touching another part of the universe, it's connected forever. Right? And we've mentioned this before, but just to remind us, the beginning, the Big Bang that we talked about, just before that Big Bang, everything that we know in the universe was in the size of a green pea. Now, all of this is in the size of a green pea. Was it connected? Was it connected? And then as it expands throughout the universe, are we belief that we are separate, and that we can somehow be separate from nature, separate from creatures? We don't need those. But the reality is we're all connected. And as we move toward harmony, then we discover the power of this Creator for us to thrive. And that's what the prophet is reminding us here. And he says, have you not heard, have you not known, the Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, the universe, all that we know. Then God does not faint, doesn't grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youth will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exalted. But those who wait for the Lord will renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So one of the things that we are learning today is this tradition of prayer that comes from the heart, not exclusively from the head. The head is there to solve problems, to come up with the yeses and the nos and the reasons for it and reasons against it. But the heart is univocal. It speaks one language. It speaks to us over and over again. It is not a binary. It is a unity. And our prayers, when we are in our heart, and we have coherence between the brain and the heart. And by the way, recently we discovered that a heart has 40,000 cells in it that are the same cells that are in the brain. 40,000. So paying attention to the heart is a really important discipline. Taking a deep breath, slowing our breath, listening to the heart, and experiencing gratitude or compassion or and soul and strength. Right? Isn't that what the prophet Isaiah in chapter 40 through 50 is saying? Love this Creator. Love this Creator. It's not that the other gods are bad. It's just that they're limited. And we're talking, we have a relationship when we are open to it with an unlimited Creator. Loving the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, mind, and strength. One. The second is like unto it, which is? Love your neighbor as yourself. So if you'll take a look at the gospel itself. Jesus has come away from the synagogue where undoubtedly he was very much in his brain, very much in the intellect, talking, instructing, having controversy with scribes and Pharisees. He leaves that after confronting the demon who's challenging him at the deepest level. He leaves that and goes to where? Simon's house. Simon Peter's house. Andrew's house. And what Jesus discovers is their mother as a feeder. Their mother as a feeder. Jesus stops everything he was doing, spends time with her, and the fever leaves. And she rises up and goes and begins serving. Our love for neighbor is presence. Being present. We don't have to argue. We don't have to perform miracles. We don't have to go in with some idea of what we need to do or what they need to do, or if you didn't do this, it wouldn't happen, or here's the way to make that not happen. It's simply to be a loving presence. And when we have that brain-heart coherence, when we're experiencing the love that God has for us, there's nothing that we can do. And being present to one who is depressed, ill, lost their way, lonely, simply to be present with them is to love your neighbor. And so what we are seeing today in the Scriptures is the embodiment. What does it mean to love God with all your heart and mind and soul and strength? It's to seek God in all that we do. It's to never say, because we don't know, it can't be. It's to seek God throughout the world. And it's very interesting to me that the edge of science is pushing into the place that indigenous people knew many years ago was true. Science, by the discovery of quantum and quantum physics that goes with it, and our awareness of how the body is working, the role of the heart in our physical bodies. These things are reminding us of what indigenous people knew a long time ago. It's helping us to see more clearly what Jesus had in mind. So, loving God, if you ever get lost, go to chapter 40 of Isaiah and read it. And if you ever get lost, those followers of Jesus know that the way to heal, the way to have experience those miracles is through presence. To be present to others, openly, knowing that you are loved by God, not only that you can do wrong, that you are cherished by the Creator, and you can share that by your presence with God. Now, I know that we live in this bubble of Laguna Beach, and this bubble of Southern California, and this bubble of America, people